And we are live. Welcome to The Process. It is Thursday, December 2nd. I am Josh Engelman. We got an easy one on our hands. I'm here to break down a 5-game NBA slate. A little bit better than we got yesterday. Not ideal. Before we get started, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. That's the big stuff. Good morning to everybody. A lot of coffee cups in chat today. It's great to see everybody here to start off the day. So good morning to everyone that is in here right now. Not a great evening for me when it comes to DFS, that's for sure. That could have gone better. When 2 of your 3 highest exposed players have as bad of games as they possibly can have, it's not going to go well. Taking a stand on Nikola Jokic instead of going to what we were projecting as a 40% owned Dwayne Dedmon did not work. Jokic had a basically like -2 standard deviation outcome yesterday. Even played more minutes than I was expecting. But 44 fantasy points for Jokic in 36 minutes is, I mean, that'll go down as one of his worst games of the season, probably. And that sucks. Same situation for Karis LeVert. -2 standard deviations below where I expected him to be. 15 fantasy points in 28 minutes. Atrocious. Now, I did get bailed out. My second most exposed player last night was Malcolm Brogdon. That worked out well. He sort of had the opposite. He was a +2 guy, but PJ Washington, not ideal. Played 7 minutes more than I was expecting and ended up still being terrible, which is real hard to do. So there's also that. 29 fantasy points in 36 minutes for PJ Washington. Yeah, Kevin Porter was the guy that I had a pretty big stand on. He was playing exceptionally well until he got hurt. That did not help. I went to more of Chimezie Metu instead of Dwayne Dedmon. Dwayne Dedmon went out and played significantly more minutes than I expected, which isn't even like the huge issue, but he also had a, +2 standard deviation positive performance. So my biggest stand was anti the chalk. And the chalk was exceptional. I'm just not going to win on days like this. So on to the next one we go. Curtis Reed, 3rd in the 12K NBA on FanDuel. That's awesome, man. Congratulations. That's a good pull. That'll work. Shout out to anybody that had Jayshawn Tate yesterday. That wouldn't have been me, that's for sure. I did not have a single share of Jayshawn Tate. He played 7 more minutes than I fully expected. That's fine. Not surprising that Jayshawn Tate falls into the minutes. That's not the issue. 72.5 FanDuel points. 34 fantasy points. He was +34 over his 5x +10 yesterday. Absolute necessity. It was a +5 standard deviation game, which is incredible. It's wild to think that like LaMelo had a good day, but was mildly pedestrian in terms of like a per possession outcome. Just happened to play 41 minutes too. Yeah, that Jayshawn Tate day. Like Jayshawn Tate broke the slate. Nobody else really had a day that was wild, but the Deadman one hurt. And look, I don't mean this like it's some sort of problem. We were pretty high on his expected ownership projection, and if that comes in, like if we nail that one, I probably end up with, I don't know, probably like 10%, something in that neighborhood. No, not that this is changing anything that I did yesterday, but I ended up with basically 0 Dwayne Dedmon yesterday on a day where he was arguably like the third best play on FanDuel. So that certainly didn't help either. No worries. It's no worries. We're on to the next one. We're on to this Thursday slate, 5-gamer. And let's dive into this. So I've got my coffee. I hope that you guys have something that you can cheers with. Coffee, water, tea, beer, vodka. That would actually feel pretty good right now. Honestly, like a nice stout would probably be really fulfilling on this morning, but I can't be doing that kind of stuff. So I've got my coffee. I hope you do as well. Rise and grind, everybody. Cheers to you. Good morning. Let's get this day started off correctly. Ooh, that's still pretty hot. Still pretty hot. That's the first time I've ever like looked to my left and saw myself bring the cup towards the camera. That was pretty fun. All right, let's transition over. First and foremost, let's talk about PrizePicks. They are the presenting sponsor of this show. Use the promo code Awesemo when you sign up at PrizePicks. You can get up to $100 on your first deposit. Guys, that's a lot of money, and that's a really, really nice match bonus to start it off. We've got player prop tools on awesemo.com for free that will help you make your PrizePicks picks. That's exactly how I wanted to say it. It will help you out tremendously. I promise you that. I can't say that you're going to guarantee to win money, but we've got a lot of free tools here that should help you out considerably. So go check out PrizePicks and use that promo code Awesemo. The table that I have on the screen was just sort of what I was talking through. Not that any of it's going to be all that interesting to you guys, but I always like to wake up each morning and get an idea of like, how many minutes did guys play in comparison to what I projected them for? How many fantasy points did they put up in comparison to what I projected them for? How did they perform based on my rates in the minutes that they played? Because you can be wrong 2 different ways. You can be wrong from a fantasy point per minute basis, and you can be wrong from a minutes perspective. So I don't want to judge who would be a good example for this. I mean, Dwayne Dedmon to a degree. Like, Dwayne Dedmon played 5 more minutes than I had projected him for. But when I evaluate how I projected Dwayne Dedmon, I want to evaluate him based on how many minutes he actually played. The lack of minutes is a difference. So I want to project him higher, and I want to give him a higher projection. So like I projected him for 25 fantasy points in 26 minutes before lock. But when I actually want to evaluate him, I want to project him for 29 and a half, which is what I had per minute wise in the minutes that he played. And in that case, if he played 29 and a half minutes, I had Dwayne Dedmon significantly lower than the 39 that he put up. He had a massive day as a relatively highly owned center. Those are going to be really difficult days for me to dodge. Like Jayshawn Tate obviously doesn't count. He broke it in like a way different way. But, you know, Malcolm Brogdon was also exceptional. But if we look at just my exposures, 64% Nikola Jokic, he had about as bad of a game as he's going to have all season. There's no recovering from that right out of the gate. That is just going to be an anchor that destroys me. Karis LeVert. If I knew that he was playing 28 minutes, would I have less? Yes. I would project him for 28 and a half fantasy points instead of 31. Unfortunately, that is also as bad as it's going to get. 15 fantasy points in 28 minutes will be one of the worst performances he'll have all year. 2 of my highest 3 exposed guys, full-on stink bombs. Truly, truly bad. Now, here's the interesting one. Kevin Porter Jr., you'd think bad play, something along those lines. 19 fantasy points, but he did that in 13 minutes. I would have projected 14 fantasy points in 13 minutes. So he was off to a fantastic start. In theory, his pace was 1.5 standard deviations ahead of where I needed it to be. That was shaping up to be good. It just also died on the vine. PJ Washington, not great. Metu was fine. Like, he was having a neutral game, played 7 minutes less than I expected. And that was the big piece for me, if we want to talk through it at least. We had Dwayne Dedmon projected for 40% ownership before lock. Like, even if we bring that down to 30, it's a different story. But we also had Chimezie Metu, center eligible. He was like $500 more expensive, projected for single-digit ownership. I thought Metu was more likely to play. I thought Metu would play more minutes than Dwayne Dedmon. I had him for 30. I had Dedmon for 26. If you want to say that should have been like 28, I think that's fine. They're both fantasy point per minute guys. I don't think that you could project those guys all that differently if you're projecting the same amount of minutes. But we had one of them 3 times as owned, 2.5 times as owned at the very least. I'm just always going to be on the opposite side of that, particularly at center on FanDuel, where if this just flip-flops itself and Dedmon doesn't have that same sort of, like, if Dedmon gets the 23 minutes and they go to more Yurt7 or PJ Tucker, this flips dramatically. I think I'm more likely to win long-term by just making that flip. And like, Metu started, I'm still shocked that he played 23 minutes. That's neither here nor there. I think it's just better off to be flipping those ownerships. It just worked out in like the exact opposite way that it ever could. And knowing that stuff's just going to happen, it makes it a lot easier to stomach as you move through the day. And I feel fine with that. Like, I looked at my, people will look at the Sims and be like, oh, you only got like 2 guys in that list to be in the optimal. That's pretty good. Like, the sim odds for yesterday's slate said basically 2 guys should be in the optimal, and they were. It was Malcolm Brogdon, and I don't remember who the second one was, but Malcolm Brogdon and somebody. I'll know it if I look at it here. It might have been LaMelo. That sounds right to me. Would have liked to get to more Terrence Davis playing 11 more minutes at 3,800, but that didn't matter all that much. Anyway, let's get on to it. I have ranted long enough. Don't be afraid to hit that like button. 92 viewers, 37 likes. We've got 5 games to break down, and we are kicking it off with the Chicago Bulls, 2-point favorites in New York. 214 total. Is that right? The Bulls are 2-point favorites in New York? That feels like I should have typed that in the opposite way. I mean, it's not like I think the Knicks are good, but yeah, 2-point favorites in New York. Is somebody out? Nope. Everybody in, basically. Alrighty. Well, let's check out Chicago and the New York Knicks. I didn't really get all my screens open here. Super. Good morning. Good to see you. Probably should have prepped this screen before I started. There we go. Chicago. We got to delete old sim stuff. Clear out the dead weight. Now we can do this. Alrighty. For the Bulls, what do we know and who's out? We've got Kobe White out, health and safety protocols, going to be out for a bit. RJ Barrett Q tag on the Knicks is all we got to worry about there. So these teams are basically full strength. I don't think Kobe White being out is going to matter all that much. I'll happily go to 35 minutes on Zach LaVine. We just saw Vooch get back up to 35 minutes. I think that is an important distinction, so I do want to give him an extra minute. Looks like we can go to Derek Jones as just the straight backup. And then I'm going to take Javonte Green's minutes out and Dosunmu's minutes out. And now we could rebuild this rotation because Lonzo's in for 36 in a competitive game. Maybe that should be 35. Levine in for 35. Alex Caruso. I mean, it feels like 31 should be the case, but I'm going to go to 30 since they closed with Javonte Green last time. Oh, coffee's so good. Coffee's so good. No strategy show for me, by the way, today. Thursday is my no strategy show day. So you'll get contenders in the morning, but I'll be back for the deeper dive with Adam at 5:30 because we got a 7:30 lock tonight. All right, so we kind of know what this rotation is going to be, other than the fact that we've got no Kobe White any longer. So if Kobe White leaves the rotation, who enters it? Troy Brown, probably? That seems like the most likely scenario. I could be wrong. Don't think that I am, but I could be wrong. This is actually not all that easy to project. Like, they don't even have a natural 4. Like, who's the backup 4 to DeMar DeRozan? Let's look up the Bulls. This is a tricky team. They're just playing so many guards. Butthole, good morning. All right, lineups. Yeah, I guess we're just going to see Tony Bradley then, right? Does that become the answer? I mean, he hasn't played in 4 games, basically. We know that we're not getting Patrick Williams, so let me just take him off the court right now. Because he's truly meaningless. But I guess, like, Javonte Green is just, the 4. Like, there's no way around that. 6'5" Javonte Green is a power forward now. Easily. All right, against the Knicks, you could probably play Tony Bradley for a rotation. I don't think that's crazy. So, I'm going to give him those 8 minutes. That'll let me get most of those minutes to Derek Jones at the 4. And then we can get Javonte Green in for 26. That seems about right. So I got 22 minutes left over. Actually, this is shaping itself out a lot easier than I was expecting. Dosunmu has not been playing as much as of late, but I think that's going to change for this particular rotation. We might see Troy Brown get a rotation. Nothing too crazy. I don't have to change any rates for this team. And they don't look particularly good because they're facing the Knicks. And the Knicks are rarely a team you want to attack from a fantasy perspective. Now, on the Knicks side, we definitely need to make some adjustments to their rotations because I'm expecting Alec Burks to play more minutes than I had originally projected for him. So at the very least, I think 34 needs to happen, but maybe I feel even a little bit better with 35. Honestly, it's possible that it should just be 36. Let me look at the rotation. Is Popcorn Machine updated for this most recent one? It is. So we saw Alec Burks play the entire first quarter and a normal rotation at the end of the second quarter. That's a 19-minute first half. I'm going 36 minutes on him. I think I have to. Then we got to go to Derrick Rose quickly, RJ Barrett. I think RJ Barrett in for 32 is fine for right now. I think quickly in for 24 seems fine just because I don't really know what else. Like, having no RJ Barrett for most of that game is important. I guess we should just look through the rest of these guys from a rotational standpoint because getting the Knicks right is important today. We saw Derrick Rose play 13 minutes in the first half. Certainly has the potential to close, so I think maybe 26 to Rose makes more sense. And then quickly in the first half, didn't come on till late, actually came on for Fournier. But then once Barrett went down, stayed out there instead of coming back on for Fournier. He also, they started the third quarter with Quentin Grimes and then immediately went to Quickly, which is interesting. I don't think, like, Quickly's clearly not playing 37 minutes again if RJ Barrett is out. I think the most likely scenario is that Emmanuel Quickly is basically like Evan Fournier's backup. At which point he's going to play, I don't know, like 22 minutes. I can't go to more than 24. That just doesn't seem right to me. Fournier for 28 feels more correct. They didn't close with Fournier last time. I don't know why. I guess because is the easiest answer here. So I think 28 minutes still works for Fournier. This Knicks guard rotation is just so difficult because of RJ Barrett being out in that last game. I kind of just want him to be out again today and make things a little bit easier. I don't like the idea of giving Quickly 24 minutes, but, you know, the minutes have been trending up, so I don't... Maybe I shouldn't overreact. I just don't know who else to give those minutes to. Like, I can't take Quickly lower than 20, or Fournier lower than 28. Maybe I can. We'll go 26 to Fournier, and then that's it. Nerlens Noel and Mitchell Robinson is just a coin flip. Or maybe it's 25-23. We know what we're getting out of Randall, that's for sure. I mean, 34 minutes plus in a competitive game. We'll go to 35 and 13. Yeah, Jared, I don't agree with you there. Whoever's playing well will close for this Knicks team. They don't have it. Like, they've got too many really quality guys. If Evan Fournier is having a good game, he's going to close and play 30 minutes. If Emmanuel Quickly is having a good game, he might close and get 30 minutes. David, that is 1,000,000% not happening, barring injury or RJ Barrett being out. Derrick Rose isn't playing 34 minutes. That's just not happening. Basically impossible without RJ Barrett sitting, and even then, I don't think it's likely to happen on a planned day. You would just see more Quentin Grimes. All right, let's start it off. Game one. Let's look at Chicago, who I don't think looked all that great. And I'm right. Zach LaVine for 7,800 on FanDuel is my preferred option. Mike, I appreciate that. Does Barrett affect Burks at all? Not really. But yes, like, if RJ Barrett doesn't play, then Alec Burks is playing 36 minutes today in a competitive game for sure. If RJ Barrett does play, like, I think like 34 is a slightly more likely scenario. I didn't think they had... I thought they had them a little differently, Mike. All right, so for Chicago... Look, you can go to any one of DeRozan, LaVine, Ball, Vooch. Just easily. None of them look all that great today. And that's not surprising against the Knicks. On the Knicks side, like Alec Burks for 6,500 on FanDuel with point guard small forward, he's going to be very popular, and he should be. Julius Randle is $1,000 cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. That should be pretty obvious on where you should prioritize him. If RJ Barrett plays, I have a little bit of interest across both sites. Now, Mongo, I didn't see LeBron's tweet about that, but my thought process on the illness stuff is, I don't think all that controversial. I think it's just guys planning or getting their boosters. And they're preemptively putting people on there as questionable with flu or with illness on the off chance that they have negative symptoms, but they need to be prepared for it. because so many people are actually getting their boosters. So I think it's all booster related for the most part. Yeah, this Knicks Bulls game is a pretty tough one to get to. If RJ Barrett ends up out, though, we'll have a little bit more value. It's just really tough to prioritize anything from the Knicks. There's a little bit too much ambiguity there still. Let's move to Milwaukee. Milwaukee on the back-to-back against Toronto. And as we check out this Milwaukee Bucks team, which I don't think we'll be making too many changes for, seems normal here. No Brook Lopez, no Dante DiVincenzo, no Semi Ojeleye. That all seems right to me. On the Toronto side, Q-tag on Gary Trent. Still no Anunoby. Still no Khem Birch. Still no Dragic. I'm probably not making a change to this rotation. Like, this just is what they're going to do in a competitive game. So, I do love that they're playing basically 8 guys. I cannot get comfortable today. Back's a little sore. A little creaky today. Yeah, I don't think that I need to change anything from Milwaukee from yesterday. These are just all going to be the normal rates. And for Toronto, we do have to make some changes just because of Gary Trent. But I'd like to read his blurb just to see if he is actually close, because I'd prefer to not make any changes on Toronto too. So for Trent, questionable. Went through practice, so we're going to say that he is in. It's a pretty easy fix. I had him in last time. And what you really just need to do, take out the minutes for everybody except for the people that play a ton. And in this case, that would be 38 minutes for Fred VanVleet. Malachi Flynn is his backup and plays a little bit more. 31 minutes for Precious Achiuwa. Yep. 36 minutes for Pascal Siakam. I think that's what he plays in a competitive game. 36 minutes for Scotty Barnes. And then we slot in Gary Trent if he is back. I'm going to go 34 on a day like today. And we get Svi back to his normal amount of minutes, which is somewhere around 18. We get Banton into his normal minutes, which is somewhere around 16. And then the final guy of this rotation will be Yuta Watanabe. We'll also give him 17. None of those guys are guys you play. Easy. So Toronto and Milwaukee both in. Rates I don't really need to change, although I guess I should look at it. Let's get Toronto for this season. Let's just make a quick adjustment because there is a usage bump to Fred VanVleet with no Gary Trent. By the way, morning across the board here from Sherman and Ken, Larry. Good to see everybody. That's not the Raptors. That's the Bucks. All right, VanVleet. Take him back down to 23.5. Normal usage rate. Normal rebounding rate. Gary Trent on the season. I mean, all these usage rates are basically dialed in. Siakam, Precious, Scotty Barnes. Yeah, Toronto just is what it is. This is a really easy team to project. All right, let's look at it. Milwaukee and Toronto. I assume Giannis will look pretty good. 11K on FanDuel, 12K on DraftKings. Not too bad on FanDuel, actually. Bobby Portis, probably my second favorite option here. And that would be a FanDuel play once again. 6,100. Power forward center eligible. It's $1,000 more expensive on DraftKings. Gambit, I'm on game number 2. Like Holiday and Middleton and stuff are fine. No immediate awesome values. On the Toronto side, Fred VanVleet on both sites, particularly on FanDuel where he's 8K. Siakam looks solid on both sites. A little bit more on FanDuel where he's 8K. Precious Achiuwa is 4,600 on both sites. I think he looks good as a center option on DraftKings. I think he looks better as a power forward center option on FanDuel. Trent looks okay across both sites if he's playing. It's really just the 5 starters or nobody else. On to game number 3. And we are at the 7 o'clock mark. 171 viewers, 73 likes. 100 of you were sleeping on me here. I know it's early. I know it's hard, but if you guys can hit that thumbs up, it helps me out a ton. Please hit that like button. That's what we do here on this morning show. Let's move it on. Oklahoma City Thunder on the back-to-back, this time taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. And we had no Josh Giddey yesterday, so I assume he's going to be listed as questionable, technically speaking, and we actually have no idea. No, he's just out. Is Giddey just properly out today? I can't even look at the injury report. They're not going to be on there. If Giddey is just properly out, that's dope. But it's not going to show anything because they played yesterday. Yeah, not yet submitted. Shit. Is he really supposed to be out? Because if he's out, then this is so much more fun to do. Being listed as out for Wednesday's matchup. Oh man, it would be really great if he were out. I'm gonna treat it like he is. I think that's easier to do right now. So we don't really have to deviate too much from where we stand. Oh, I never refreshed. Never refreshed all of my stuff. There's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. I was like, where are the minutes for these guys? There they are. Michael, announced yesterday, out for today. Perfect. I don't think it's COVID protocols for Giddey. It's non-COVID. Dope. Yeah, it's not a COVID thing, I believe. Either way, it's great to see. So we saw Trey Mann get another 30 minutes. I thought Teo Maledon might play a little bit more. He didn't. Ty Jerome did, however. But let's take Maledon's minutes down to 9. We'll take Trey Mann up to 29. Jeremiah Robinson Earl played a little bit more. 27 minutes seems fine. Baisley played and wasn't very good. After that, the rest of these guys are going to be pretty easy. 35 minutes on Shea, 34 minutes on Lou Dort. Yeah, I didn't really understand the man play yesterday either, but that's just me. I guess I don't really have to move anybody else around here. I mean, Isaiah Roby can play a couple less minutes. Paul Watson played 18, so I guess I got that right. I got to take 20. I can't have Isaiah Roby in for 21 minutes. Let's make that 19. And then we'll give 2 more to... I don't even care. Who actually played that extra amount of time? I guess I can give... I've got 4 additional minutes to go somewhere here. It doesn't really matter where they go, so we'll give 1 to... We'll give 2 to Ty Jerome, 2 to Aaron Wiggins. I mean, we're only worried about playing Shea, Dort, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, and Trey Mann in this scenario, so... I think that works. Memphis, on the other hand, should look a little weird. Yeah, so I got to talk about it with Adam before we started, but Shea's usage rate... no, that's supposed to be marked. This is playing? Yeah. Shea's usage rate with no Giddey on the floor this year is like 34%. Actually, I'll just pull it up just to show you guys. With no Josh Giddey on the floor this season, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has a 35% usage rate. Yep. So make sure you're aware of that. All right, on to Memphis. And obviously no Ja. Q tag on Slow-Mo, doubtful tag on Zaire Williams. So I'm going to leave Slow-Mo in. I believe. Yeah, just back soreness. So nothing that we could hypothesize on. This rotation should be pretty easy to handle. It's just going to look a lot like it did last time. So I've got Tyus Jones in for 30 minutes. I'm at least going to go to 31 here. DeAnthony Melton played 17. That's not ideal. I had him in for 24. So at the very least, they're going to take 2 minutes away there. I think Bane for 32 is okay. Dylan Brooks is definitely going to be okay with 32 minutes. John Konchar's minutes were normal. Jarrett Culver wasn't the guy that came in. It was Santi Aldana. So we'll make that swap. 23 minutes for Steven Adams. Sure. Brandon Clark played a little bit less. That's fine. I think those guys are just going to have their minutes bounce around pretty big. Jaren Jackson did play 34 minutes. So, maybe we take him up to 30. 29. I think something like this works. Rates are all going to stay the same. Although now that we have an extra game with no Ja, I do want to see if Desmond Bane's usage rate stabilizes at all. Josh, back-to-backs don't change anything for my projections. In my experience, the only thing that I would really change would be I would lower someone's projection by 1% if they were on a double away back-to-back. Otherwise, in my research, the back-to-back doesn't affect your actual rate of play. Now, if you want to say that somebody's going to play slightly less minutes, that's just going to come out in things that I'm projecting here. But from an actual skill set standpoint, the only reduction in quality that I saw were away back-to-backs. So, if someone's projected for 50 fantasy points, you probably want to project them for 49.5 on an away back-to-back. I mean, Memphis looks good. All right, so with Ja off, Desmond Bane's got a 23% usage rate. I'm going to go a little bit higher here still, because I don't want to go too high because Dylan Brooks is waiting in the wings to just do all things. So let's go to 31 on Brooks. Lots to like here for Memphis. So on the Oklahoma City side, Shai, for sure, 7,900 and 8,100 is the most popular piece here. Trey Mann, once again, 3,600 on DraftKings. He'll be someone you need to go to as a value option. And then Lou Dort looks pretty good, 5,600, 5,700. But on Memphis, this is where it gets really good. Dylan Brooks, 5,800 on FanDuel, shooting guard, small forward eligible. Love it. 7K on DraftKings still looks solid enough. Desmond Bane, 5,400 on FanDuel. Love it. Tyus Jones, 4,600 on FanDuel. Yes. 5,500 on DraftKings, still fine. Jaren Jackson, 6,900 on FanDuel. Nice. 7,100 on DraftKings. Looking good. Those four guys, Brooks, Bane, Tyus Jones, Jaren Jackson, all look really good. Really good. 2 games to go. Oh, and we're up over 100 likes. I didn't even see it happen, but kudos to you guys. 205 people in here as well. It's a nice slate. I love these 5-gamers, man. Something in that, I'm starting to think maybe 5-6 is my preferred size, but we don't get that nearly enough. Alrighty, Pistons and Suns, yikes. Pistons are 13-point dogs in Phoenix. The only saving grace for the Pistons here is that there's not going to be any Devin Booker for Phoenix. On the Detroit side, Killian Hayes in, no Kelly Olynyk, so normal stuff for Detroit. On the Phoenix side, though, no Devin Booker, no Frank Kaminsky, no Abdel Nader, which is actually kind of important with no Booker, but we'll get to that in a second. Gambit, not really. You'll see it come up in the crunches, how little the Bulls and Knicks are appealing. All right, so for Detroit, this is probably going to just be normal. We got Jeremy Grant in for 34 minutes. That seems fine. Killian Hayes, honestly, playing a little bit more than I expected. We'll get him up to 28 minutes. Corey Joseph is the straight backup. Whatever I can do to not get Saddiq Bey would be awesome, because that hasn't been ideal. Isaiah Stewart, I guess, needs to be 27 minutes, and we can bring Trey Lyles down. Josh Jackson just isn't really playing. I'm taking Saddiq Bey down to 32 minutes, even though I don't necessarily think that's the best projection for him, because I don't want as much of him any longer, and I don't know how to change it. So rates are all fine. Let me just look at Saddiq Bey's. So here's the real problem with Saddiq Bey. Based on all the stats that I have, I project Saddiq Bey to have a 52% true shooting rate, not necessarily moving forward, but that's what I think his true talent is right now. 52% true shooting. Saddiq Bey this season, 44.7% true shooting. So I have to project him slightly better than he's been. And he's been a 0.81 fantasy point per minute guy this season. He's been worse as of late. But I don't think it's crazy to say that at 0.81, if I think that he is a slightly better shooter, that I should be projecting him at 0.87 for today. So I'm going to let that go. I don't really have anything else I want to change here for Saddiq Bey. I think that makes a good bit of sense. Now, on the Phoenix side, this is going to be the first place where we actually have to do a decent chunk of work. Because, it Cantor, right? 44. It's bad, man. It's really bad. But I can't project him like he forgot how to play basketball in the offseason. All right. No Devin Booker is going to make this get pretty interesting. So when did he go down? All right, so they went to Cam Johnson to start the second half. I'm going to assume that happens again. So I'm going to go with the assumption that Cam Johnson is the starter in this game. Now, the real question becomes, what happens with Cam Payne? Actually, do they start Shamet? Do they go Paul, Shamet, Bridges, Crowder, Ayton? Well, first and foremost, I'm giving Ayton another minute. Getting him up to 33. I'm gonna assume they go to Cam Johnson over Shamet for right now. But I do think that Shamet's gonna play more than he normally does. So those minutes can stay, those minutes can stay. Actually, let's make this 12 and 26 and 16. Make that 22. So I'm going to say Shamet plays 28. I'm going to say Cam Johnson plays 28 because I don't necessarily think we know who's going to be in the closing lineup there, and I do need to soften the blow. But we do need to move somebody into the rotation. Now, this would have been very clearly Abdel Nader. Elfrid Payton played. I just don't know what that solves. All right, folks, here's the question for you. If you think Shamet starts, why didn't Shamet start the second half? That's my question to you guys. Why doesn't Shamet start the second half for Booker instead of Cam Johnson? What would be the reason that they would not do that but then flip it? I'm not saying that it's not possible, but that's a very interesting stance to take with no evidence. Now, you could also look at it like, and this is where I would lead, Landry Shamet closed this game instead of Booker. That's another reason why I'm not entirely comfortable saying it's either one of them. This is a spot where I'll have to adjust for the news as we get it. Because, like, if I got them both at 28-28 now, I would flip it and go like 30-26 once we get the starters. Please tell me that's true. Oh, God. I want to see this so bad. This will make me happier than most things will make me. Okay, that's not true. TBE, I wanted you to be right so bad that Landry Shamet had 0 starts. It didn't make sense to me because I was like 99% sure that was true. But it would have been really fun if he really didn't have any starts there. I would have laughed pretty hard. I don't know what they're going to do with this final chunk of time. Someone's got to step into the rotation. It just feels weird if it's Elfrid Payton. It really does. Like, I think what we need to do is take a look at who has played alongside each other for the Suns. Let's look at this. First, yeah, as I expected. Jay Lopez. The last time Booker was out wasn't this year. So that's certainly a different output. All right, Phoenix lineups. We'll take Booker off. Oh, no need to apologize, TB. I just wanted you to be right because there was like a very clear dichotomy and Shamet is starting. Shamet's never started. That was fun for me. Okay, so Chris Paul doesn't play all that frequently with Cam Payne alongside him. I mean, they do, but it's not a lot. And that's not surprising. That's a very small backcourt. Now, you can get away with that against the Pistons because they're the Pistons. But this is just kind of gross. It's probably just going to be Elfrid Payton. This would have been a spot where Abdel Nader would just play 20 minutes and we'd be done. It's not going to be Jalen Smith. I don't know who or what Ish Wainwright is. Like, Chandler Hutchison, honestly, is probably a better answer here. I think the question just becomes, like, how much can you play Cam Payne, Elfrid Payton, and Chris Paul at the same time? And the real problem here is that I don't think any of it matters. But what really matters, I think, are Cam Payne's minutes. So let's at least take him to 24. Ooh, let's take him to 22. I don't feel comfortable here. That leaves me 16 minutes. I mean, maybe they concentrate to Shamet and Cam Johnson and stagger more. Did I close that already? Apparently. Like, you can see how this bounced around a lot where, you got like the extra rotation out of Bridges. You got Cam Johnson playing that sort of extra rotation, but then coming back off. So they can stagger these guys quite a bit. I think though, like 28 works. Bridges in for 36. I guess I can make that 37 just because of how much he actually plays. I don't know who the last guy is. But one of Cam Johnson or Landry Shamet is probably going to play north of 30 minutes. I just don't know who that guy is going to be. I mean, I guess I'm giving Elfrid Payton like 12 minutes, and then I'm just going to throw like another 3 at Chandler Hutchison. We clearly have to take all the rates out. The Phoenix Suns are tricky for today without any info. And since we won't have that starting lineup, we're going to have to make some real assumptions here. All right, so with no Devin Booker on the floor this season, and honestly, I could probably just go back to last year too. Cam Payne gets like this monster usage rate. Chris Paul doesn't really change all that much. Let's just go back to the beginning of last year because I think that's going to be more helpful. Chris Paul with no Devin Booker on the floor. 23.8% usage rate. So I'm going to go to 23 there. Assist rate does go up a little bit. We see DeAndre Ayton bump up a little bit. Bridges, I'm assuming, doesn't really change all that much. Landry Shamet so far this season's got a 16% usage rate without him. Jay Crowder last season and this season got up to like 17. Cam Johnson, 17% usage rate without him. And then Cam Payne, 23. So that's where we land on the Suns. Now let's look at this summary. For the Pistons, Sadiq Bey on FanDuel at 5,100. Cade Cunningham on FanDuel at 6,900. There are no priorities from the Pistons on Detroit. When we look at Phoenix, God, we have 250 people in here. Hit that like button. This is great. For Phoenix, Mikal Bridges, both sites, 5,900 and 5,700. Chris Paul, both sites, 8,400, 8,600. And then Ayton, 7,800, 7,600. Those three guys for sure. Cam Johnson is 4,200. Landry on DraftKings. Landry Shamet is 3,100. Landry Shamet is going to be way more popular than Cam Johnson. Pay attention to that. Shouldn't really matter all that much. They'll both be like mildly interesting. Although Cam Johnson's going to need every single one of those minutes. And now we get to the final one. The one that I'm actually most interested in. And you guys are going to be surprised. Well, you won't be surprised once I start talking, but I do have a reasoning behind it. Doug McDermott probable. Devin Vassell probable. This is going to be very interesting because I got in a little back and forth yesterday about how Thad Young is not in the rotation for the Spurs. I was told very clearly that I was wrong. Thad Young was not playing when no one was hurt. He started getting his minutes when Jakob Poeltl went down. We've also had Doug McDermott and Devin Vassell missing time. I'm very curious to see if Thad Young plays today. More than, say, 4 to 5 token minutes. But I really hope he gets the DNP CD so that I can fly onto Twitter and tell people I'm smart. But we're getting 2 guys back, so I got to delete this entire San Antonio rotation. Spurs are going to be at full strength today. For Portland, we got the news yesterday. Dame is going to be out for like 2 weeks. Nas Little is out for another week. We got the Q tag on Norm Powell. This game is going to be very important. So we'll start on the San Antonio side. This game is super important because San Antonio plays so quickly. So we're going to go ahead and get DeJounte Murray in for 35 minutes. We're going to go ahead and get Jakob Poeltl on the opposite side in for 30 minutes. In this last game, we saw Jakob Poeltl play 24 plus minutes. Drew Eubanks played a little bit less. Thad played a little bit more, but Thad did not play in the first half, and that is an interesting piece of information. So I'm going to say that Drew Eubanks gets like 12 minutes, and they could kind of just go to like a Keldon Johnson at the 5 look if they need to for a couple minutes, especially against Portland when Nurk isn't out there. So we'll say Keldon Johnson is in for, I mean, this dude's playing 34 minutes a game, so he's in for 34. Backup point guard run. I mean, I guess we got to get everybody else in here now. Doug McDermott, we're going to put in for 20 minutes. Plus another 4. We're going to take him to 24. So that's fine there. I'm going to put Derek White in for 33. Seems to be around that number right now. Bryn Forbes is just going to get that backup run. We need to hash out Vassell and Lonnie Walker. Both of these guys are going to be around like 23 minutes probably. We'll go 23 Vassell. I'm going to go 21 Lonnie Walker. That gives me 15 for Forbes, 13 for Trey Jones. Am I missing anybody? No. That's as good as it's going to get. I'm leaving Thad out of the rotation for right now. I'm such a terrible person. All these rates should just be the same. It's not like the guys that were out matter. DeJounte Murray in for 25% usage. Flip yourself over to just this season. Oh, that's my fault. I can't believe we've got 236 people in here on a 5-game Thursday slate. This is fun. 240 now. How many likes is that? 139. You guys are the best. Yeah, DeJounte in for 25. We'll go to 25.5. I'm cool with that. Assist rate is even higher. That'll work. Derek White, 17.5. We'll go 18.5. That one works. Jake Puddle, 16. Shit. We'll go 16.5. And then Keldon Johnson, 20.5% usage rate this season. Finally back down to where it belongs. That didn't take long to tumble. Anybody else I need to work on here? Lonnie Walker's doesn't matter. Nobody else's actually matters. All right, so that's San Antonio. Now let's go to Portland. Do we know if Norm Powell is leaning towards playing? I'm going to assume that Norm Powell is playing for today. So I'm going to take out this entire rotation for Portland. We'll start with Anthony Simons playing 34 minutes. I'm going to assume Dennis Smith Jr. gets the backup run. We're going to go to Yusuf Nurkic playing 27 minutes. Cody Zeller playing a little bit of backup run. And a small amount of Larry Nance. By the way, the interesting piece for Thad Young, he has not played a single second alongside Drew Eubanks or alongside Jakob Poeltl. He's only played at the 5. And that's where it starts to get a little weird. Larry, you have to upload and you have to add your own column to FC and add your own leverage scores in. Then you can see totals like that. CJ in for 37 is very obvious. That one's easy. Larry Nance for 24 minutes seems about right. And then Robert Covington in for this dude just plays 24, 19, 30, 15, 27 his last 5 games. Thanks, Bobby Covs. That's super helpful. What did he do in the first half of last game? Anybody can close for this team. I guess it doesn't matter. I'm going to give him 28 minutes. We'll give another minute to Tony Snell plus 19 at least. I think he plays. Oh, yeah. Norm Powell will be back. So we'll take Snell to 16. I'm going to go 33 on Norm Powell. And that leaves me 11 for, Ben McLemore? We got Snell in. That's a 10-man rotation. Snell, Covington, Powell, Nance, Nurkic, DSJ, Zeller, McCollum, McLemore, Simons. That looks good to me. Rates are going to have to change a little bit because I have them in here without Norm Powell. And that's going to change some stuff. But this is going to be a really nice outlook for Portland. All right, so with no Damian Lillard on the floor this season, Anthony Simons has a 23.5% usage rate. That works for me. Assist rate certainly goes up, so we'll bump that. CJ, with no Dame on the floor this year, 30% usage rate. That looks good. We get Yusuf Nurkic, no Dame on the floor this year, only 83 minutes, 15.5% usage rate. There's a 0% chance that I'm going to do that to Yusuf Nurkic. What's it been with Dame? Because I definitely want to lower it if it's just been bad the whole year. And it was 21. So, yeah, there's no way that I'm going to give him that big of a haircut. I'll take it to 20. Larry Nance. Nope. Larry Nance with no Lillard. 14.5. That's his normal, so that's fine. Norm Powell, this is the key piece here. Norm Powell has only played 54 minutes this season without Damian Lillard on the floor. He's got a 22% usage rate. I got to go back to the beginning, not the beginning of last year, but to whenever Norm Powell got on the floor. Norm Powell has played 403 minutes without Dame since the start of last season, 23.8% usage rate. Norm Powell is about to look like an incredible play, and that is not fun for a guy that might not even play today. OB still just getting back from the Clipper game. That's fun. All right, so these rates are all good. Nurkic also terrible rebounding rate with no Dame. What a weird small sample for Yusuf Nurkic with no Damian Lillard. That makes no sense. But, I mean, we're done for the 5 games. Let's look at the summary on San Antonio. Keldon Johnson across both sites. Not fun, but, I mean, he's just playing so many minutes. Jakob Poeltl across both sites. Looks solid. DeJounte Murray, well worth a $9,800 price tag. But this is where it's going to get the most interesting. Portland. Nobody's going to be surprised that CJ McCollum's a really good play with no Dame today. Anthony Simons is unquestionably my favorite play on Portland, particularly on DK where he's 4,900. You just got to play a lot of Simons. He's a completely different player with no Dame out there. Norm Powell looks really good for 5,200 and 5,400 across both sites. Yusuf Nurkic looks pretty good across both sites. Robert Covington on DraftKings. Larry Nance on DraftKings. There is a lot to like for Portland, and it looks even better if you have to late swap off of Norm Powell. Now, let's run some crunches. And if you haven't done it yet, hit the like button. Helps us out a ton. Or just go check out PrizePicks and use the promo code Awesemo. Get $100 on your first deposit of up to $100. All right. Optimal lineup on FanDuel. This is the part that everybody's waiting for. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Tyus Jones, CJ McCollum, Anthony Simons, Giannis, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson, Precious, and Jakob Poeltl. So you can pay up to Giannis and still get a relatively balanced build. I mean, I don't see anything on here that makes me not like that lineup. Like that looks really strong for 7:30 in the morning. You can drop down, wow, 1.7 fantasy point drop off to the next lineup. That might be the biggest I've ever seen. You turn Shea into Paul, and then Jakob Poeltl into Keldon Johnson. But you lose 1.7 fantasy points. Power rankings. Oh boy. I mean, it doesn't look fun on the surface, but like I'm not surprised by any of the names I'm seeing. I am happy to see that Giannis Antetokounmpo is the top of the power rankings right now. That's always fun. Dylan Brooks 2, Shea 3, Tyus Jones 4, Jaren Jackson 5, CJ Simons Powell, Keldon Johnson, Precious Achua, Fred VanVleet, Chris Paul, Cade, Pascal Siakam. So you see this trio of Grizzlies, trio of Blazers, trio of Raptors, just all jammed together. I like it. I actually think this builds out well. I wish Locke was in 5 minutes. I have more confidence in what I'm getting right now than I certainly will at 7 o'clock tonight. All right, let's move it on to DraftKings now. I've got Giannis projected 9 fantasy points ahead of everybody else. He's the only guy in the 50s. Next closest guy is CJ McCollum at 45. That's a lot. I don't know what whistling sounds like into the microphone, but I assume it sucked. Sorry, guys. Alrighty. Optimal lineup on DK. Tyus Jones, Anthony Simons, Mikal Bridges, Jaren Jackson, Precious, Shea, Norm Powell, CJ McCollum. Again, nothing there is surprising to me. You can drop down 1/10 of a point if you want to turn Mikal Bridges and... All right, Mikal Bridges becomes DeAndre Ayton. Somebody becomes Larry Nance. Tyus Jones becomes Larry Nance. So it's the 2v2 of Tyus Jones, Mikal Bridges, or Larry Nance, DeAndre Ayton. I don't have a preference there. All that looks pretty good to me. Nothing standing out is just like, yuck type stuff, which is always helpful. Not surprised at all with who the number one contender is on DraftKings, given the $4,900 price tag and roll bump. But Anthony Simons is very, very clearly the number one play today on DraftKings for me. CJ 2, Powell 3. So Blazers, Blazers, Blazers. Bridges, Alec Burks, Precious, Gary Trent, Jaren Jackson Jr. It's amazing that Norm Powell and Gary Trent today are both questionable. Two guys that got traded for each other last year. Jaren Jackson, Shea, DeAndre Ayton, RJ Barrett if he plays, which becomes kind of interesting. Again, like none of this is all that surprising to me. I mean, SGA had a monster day just yesterday. He went for 49 fantasy points at 8,300. That'll work. Hit 39 real points. Well, I don't think that we have anything else to talk about here. It's a fun slate. I like it. I assume that we'll get a bunch of news that will ruin it for me. I didn't even look at the times. When did these games start? Oh, this is the worst. 2 7:30 starts, an 8, a 9, a 10. That's miserable. Hate that. Hate that, hate that, hate that. Alrighty. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Weird. I wouldn't have expected the drop-off in viewership for running optimal lineups and crunches. I would have assumed that's like the piece that people want to stick around for. Oh well. I appreciate you guys being here. We got one more process show this week. That will be tomorrow, obviously. So we'll be here again, 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. It's been a great one. Again, I'm not on the strategy show today. I'm on the deeper dive, 5:30 to 6:30 with Adam. So we'll be breaking that down from there. I will have contenders out within the next hour. Unfortunately, I've got to do NFL contenders today, although that might be like either the last one or the second to last one. Otherwise, it's been a good one. Another day in the books. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you have a great day. It's been great seeing you all. Win some money tonight. We're back again tomorrow on the process. Adios.